You know, for as heavy it is, you'd think it'd be laborious to drive it, but it's actually quite nice.
Yeah. And the thing that I just keep getting impressed with is just how quiet it is in here.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it so conducive to sightseeing rather than having diesel engine or something like that.
Right.
Just the quiet little sewing machine is the way to go.
One episode of Jay Leno's Garage, and now for something completely different. This is a 1936 white 706 model, I guess Yellowstone truck, Yellowstone bus. This is what they used to take people through the parks in. 6-cylinder engine. I'm not sure the horsepower. We'll find out in just a minute. These things just got driven to death, taken every day, especially in the summer, taking literally hundreds, if not thousands of people a week through Yellowstone, up and down hills. Powerful in the sense it's got a lot of torque, not particularly fast. This particular one was restored by our old friend Winslow from Legacy Classic Trucks. He's been with us a bunch of times, but we haven't seen him in about 3 or 4 years, so it's kind of nice that he came by with this. Really unusual. Winslow, come on in, my friend.
Hey, Jay, how are you?
Good to see you again. Good.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, this is, I remember seeing these when I was a kid. You know, White has a real history. They started out as a sewing machine manufacturer. And then Roland White invented a new kind of steam car, probably the most modern steam car, unlike a Stanley. It used a steam generator, not a boiler. They built those from about 1900 to about 1910. 1911, they switched to gas and cars, and they had gas cars that looked like the steam cars, and then they started building trucks, and then trucks exclusively. They were White for a long time. Then they became Freightliner, I think. Yeah. And then Volvo.
Ended up under Volvo, I think.
Volvo, but it's been continuous. But they've always been, especially during World War I, White trucks really helped win the war.
You know, it's interesting, Jay. So this is a 1936. Based on what you're saying, this was already an old company by 1936. There weren't a lot of other manufacturers. They're like, oh, we've been doing this for 50 years.
Well, there was Autocar, which was around. Autocar, I believe, was the first exclusive manufacturer of trucks in America.
I could see that.
Very close. White, as I said, was building sewing machines, steam cars, bird cages, all kinds of stuff, you know. Really, I mean, you laugh at bird cages, but you know, at the turn of the century, that was hugely popular. There was no radio, there's no Netflix. You just sit and you watch the bird. Oh, look, he talked, you know. But everybody had bird cages. And like if you were a rich society woman, to have birds in your home. So very elaborate, expensive bird cages.
There you go.
Now you're still laughing, but that's true.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking in my next life I should do bird cages rather than,
you know,
it just would be easier.
There's probably a lot of money. Yeah, to me, it's finding the space to restore something like this. You have to kick, what, 6 other cars out of the shop to get this thing in there.
Yeah, and that's actually been an issue. So once you do one of these, you know, the word gets out that you can do a bus. Right. So then everyone starts bringing them to you, and you really have to think about it because this is twice the size of a normal car that restores. So you need twice the staffs, twice the people on it, everything to keep it moving effectively through your shop.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong. I assume that White would build perhaps the chassis and the cab, and then this would be sent out to a bodybuilder to become either a stake bed or a bus or whatever they want.
Right, right. So, you know, pre-World War II, there were still tons and tons of coach builders out there. So your OEM, like White, is going to get you 60 or 70% of the way there. So this would have been a cab and chassis. And then Bender, who was a coach builder, quite a huge coach builder, actually. They did some stuff for Duesenberg and I think maybe Pierce Arrow. They were a major company, so they collaborated on this, and they're the ones that came up with the back part of it. But what the White is most known for is that beautiful front clip, and that was actually a Hungarian count that moved to the United States and collaborated on building the front clip. He wanted this V-type wedge and thought that that was very, very elegant. Then, being that these have smaller engines, they don't need huge radiators, so you can make the hood nice and small, so you actually have half a chance of kind of seeing over the hood as you're driving around. And
the fascinating thing about White was they really built a quality product. I mean, you almost couldn't build a better steam car today than White built. They're amazing how well built they are. And their internal combustion engines, the same thing. You know, these kind of flatheads, you could find this engine in a field put gas in it, pull it a couple, and it'll fire.
Yeah.
You know, I've got some flatheads from this era. Like I've got a 41 Plymouth business coupe. Flathead 6.
Yeah.
1-barrel carburetor.
Sure.
It sits for a year and a half with bad gas. Boom, fire. I mean, they're so dead reliable. They weren't sophisticated, they weren't fast, but they always ran.
I love this engine. So this is a, it's a white, it's a straight 6.
Right, it's built by White. It's not a Continental or a Beaver or one of those other
318 cubic inch. I don't know, the power feels like maybe 120 or something, 110.
Is it that much?
Maybe. It's the torque is probably 200 or 250.
Right.
Not a lot of horsepower, but I love this motor for this truck, because imagine you're using this for cruising through the national parks and you want it nice and quiet and oh, look at the bears, you know. And so one of the things that I like about this flathead is it's just so quiet. You just can't even tell if it's running.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
And as you notice on this vehicle, the top rolls back. Right. So you have an open canopy. And that's going to allow all your passengers...
Does that roll back or come off?
Well, it does both. So it rolls back. There's a storage tray in the back.
I see.
Today I have the top all the way off. By the 1940s, they were filling that with ice and beers and cocktails and things. So when you were standing up and looking around at the national park, driving through, you're smoking cigarettes and having a cocktail.
Yeah, throw a beer off the side. And,
absolutely different sort of era. But this is a great, nice, mellow way to see the national park. And Jay, you know, the cool thing is, these are still in use today.
Yeah.
Glacier National Park has got 33 of these on the road.
Wow.
Yellowstone has 8 of them. I think are off the road currently, but they own 8. Zion National Park has got one of these things. So in total, they built about 500 of these, and about 150 went to the government, and then the other 350 just to various people that needed, you know, people movers. Right, right. But this bus has over 600,000 miles on it. And of that 600,000 miles, not much of that was paved. Right, yeah. I mean, the parks weren't paved. Right. So this thing just took an incredible beating. And also, the vehicle, the body is framed with wood, which I'm sure you're used to. That's really something to think about, that you've got, wow, a wood body. This thing's, you know, 80 years old. It's still in great shape. And it's got 600,000 miles driving around on dirt roads and tourists hopping in and out. And the fact that it still exists is impressive to me.
Massive drum brakes.
Yep, which...
Single master cylinder?
Single master cylinder. They work great if they're adjusted properly. Right, right. If they're not, then you change lanes when you hit the brakes.
Yeah, that's key, yeah.
Yeah.
3-speed or 4-speed?
The transmission is an unsynchronized 4-speed. Right. And the people that used to operate these buses were called gear jammers. And that came from trying to shift gears. Right. You've got to float it in every single gear. Doesn't matter if you use the clutch or not. So it's a whole thing, a sound and smell. And
how many people does it hold?
16.
So you got 16 people, an average of what, 200 pounds, 150, 180 pounds?
Yeah, you got, and then on the back is the pod for luggage, goes in the back. So you probably got 3,000 or 4,000 pounds worth of people and gear. You've got, I think the vehicle probably weighs about 8,000 or 9,000 pounds.
Oh, it's got. I bet it's more than that.
It could be.
I bet you this is about 15,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So when they built these vehicles, anything that was stamped at the factory was done with a tool, and the panel is made out of steel. But anywhere where it was just kind of nailed onto the vehicle on the assembly line, they used aluminum. So you have all these biferrous metals touching one another. Oh, so electrolysis. Right, yeah. So one of the reasons I say this is the hardest car I've ever had to paint was because anywhere where steel and aluminum were overlapping, we had to pull it apart and then build up a layer of zinc primer. Okay. The zinc keeps the electrolysis. They used to put
rubber in between.
Yeah, I mean, just anything. Yeah. Yeah. So we did it with zinc this time around, and it seems like it's holding up really well.
Yeah, can we open the...
yeah, absolutely. So this is your white flathead here.
Seems like it would be tricky to work on.
Given the butterfly hood. So what you do is then you throw this guy right here like that.
Right, I see.
And hope it doesn't decapitate
well,
you.
That's not too bad, but you're leaning and then massive. That's generator, right? Yeah,
That's a huge generator on the bottom.
huge generator.
Oversized oil filter. So everything is just set up for reliability.
Even an oil filter was rare
Right.
back in the day because I guess they figured it did so many grueling miles that they couldn't take a chance. And,
that it warranted
yeah,
it.
and
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
always a bolt-on aftermarket. Remember they used to have the toilet paper ones? You put a roll of toilet
Yes,
paper in
yes,
there?
yes, yes,
and
yes,
that
yes.
was your filter? Which
Yeah. A
seemed
sock,
crazy. Yeah.
an old sock. Single barrel carburetor. As you can see, a lot of.
And what do we have here?
That's your AC Delco voltage regulator.
Oh, okay, but it's a massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, actually, I don't know if that's AC Delco. What's that? Does that say Delco? I was assuming it was Delco, but I don't actually know who manufactures that one. Yeah, giant radiator, non-pressurized.
Right.
On the first version of the Yellowstone buses, the World War I era, the radiator cap was,
A motor meter?
well, the radiator cap was Old Faithful in
Oh.
Yellowstone. And so as the coolant got hot, it started working its way up Old Faithful. And if you overheated the car, Old Faithful would erupt.
Oh, I see.
Which is very, very cute.
Well, yeah, that's...
Yeah. But this one is a better cooling system, still non-pressurized. Again, everything just being so simple
And that
to
looks
service.
like the original radiator, isn't it?
Yeah, this car is
Look how
got
thick it is,
a
yeah.
ton of original parts on it. Yeah, there's probably 200 pounds of copper in there. But the steering's tight, shift's nice, you know, goes through the gears, and as long as you're not in a hurry, it's great.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it probably does exactly the same thing, empty or full, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a 1916 Autocar coal truck. You put 2.5 tons of coal, it goes 23 miles an hour. Dump the coal out, it goes 23 miles an hour. That's what they do.
It's the same
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
I mean, it's the gearing. I don't know what the rear end is in this thing, but it's probably a 830
But you know,
to 1.
they're fun to work on because it's like when you're a kid and you have the big book of cars and all the parts are enormous.
Yeah.
And you're not going to drop some little tiny part and
Right,
not
where'd
be able
that
to
go?
find it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the carburetor just looked like Indian arrowheads, you know. Everything is just enormous.
About 500 of these were built. These came out in 1936, 37, and 38. The only major difference I think you're going to notice on the outside was the windshield frame. I think that these were leaky, and they were getting feedback from the
Right.
parks that, hey, the windshields aren't optimal. And so they retooled and redid that cowl for 37 and 38, but everything else stayed the same.
Now look at even the head gasket looks, there's no dripping down, no nothing.
No, everything's clean, everything's nice. Really, I can't imagine what the compression ratio is. It's got to be 6 to 1 or something. There's not.
No, I bet you it's 4.8.
There's not a lot of
Probably
compression.
4.8 or 5.2
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, I would think so. Even that radiator hose looks original. Jesus, that's pretty old.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was at Museum of the Rockies, I believe that's in Bozeman, Montana. It came up for auction, and the guys that,
How long ago?
I'm going to say 4 years ago.
And what does something like this sell for without, I mean, if that's possible, approximately? What were they asking? I don't know what it sell for.
This one, I think, went in the condition it was in for under 200.
Oh, under 200,000. I thought you were going to say 30 or 40,000.
And I thought that, up till recently, I thought that a good value for one of these in the condition that you see this one is about 500,000.
Wow. Well, I guess that's probably true. Everything's expensive
But-
now. I mean, paint is $600 a quart and all.
There was just an auction where one of these sold for $1.3 million.
Really?
Which I'm going to wait till I see a second or third comp before I go, oh, this is $1 million car.
Yeah,
it could have
yeah,
just
yeah.
been an anomaly.
Yeah.
But
Well, two guys
valuable.
want it. Yeah, yeah.
Valuable nonetheless.
Well, you did a wonderful job. I mean, you kept the patina while still bringing it up to date. It looks like the dash stayed pretty much
The
as
dash
it was.
is how we found it, very original. There's some stuff that was added on later, but I kind of liked it just as far as like a PA system from the 1950s.
And have you re-chromed all of these pieces, or?
Yeah, these were actually, I had them remade.
Oh,
so
okay.
I am doing a lot of these buses currently. And so some of the parts that I knew I was going to need a lot of, just like I've done with the Power Wagons, we tooled up and came out with a bunch of replacement parts.
And you must have people who want a modern Hemi engine in it or something. Does that happen?
There's some of that. I think you need to be really careful. There's probably about 80 of these vehicles left.
Right.
And more than half of those probably have been modernized, particularly by the national parks. So you'll see these. I do some for Glacier National Park, where it's on a 2020 Ford van chassis, basically. So you can make them DOT and completely modernize, but this is, I wanted to bring you this one because this is such a cool way to go.
And imagine this chassis is massive. It must be just built like the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes, yeah, huge, you know, probably 2x8 C-channel, super, super strong.
What do we have here?
That is your fuel door.
Oh, of course.
So that's your fuel door there.
Just open that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see. Yeah, of course. I'm thinking some trick thing is in here.
Yeah, that's your hybrid charger.
But, you know,
and then down here's the battery box, tucked away.
So many great things. It's such a great era, the 30s.
Oh my gosh.
Like, here's a question. How long did it take to build the Empire State Building?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
4 years.
418 days.
Wow.
From shovel to here's the key.
Well,
I mean, imagine you can't get a permit today in 418 days.
I know.
And something like this, you know, these chassis were so overbuilt. They didn't know the tensile strength of metal, really, or they weren't sure, so they just built it the strongest, heaviest thing they could. Like, I like Duesenberg, so even when you find a rusty old chassis, it's still stronger than anything else that's out there. And it's not going to bend, it's not going to warp, you're not going to, And the same thing with this. I mean, this will probably outlast modern trucks, because that's my thing. See, with mechanical stuff breaks.
Yeah.
Electronic stuff degrades. And when things degrade, you look at some sort of relay, I don't know if it's any good or not.
Right.
You know, with this, if you can tell, the oil pump's broken, the gear's broken.
Right.
You put a new one in. You know what I mean?
Like, this is easier to identify a broken component and replace that component.
Right.
Where a lot of more modern cars, like, say I have some from the 80s or 90s, and it's like, it's more systemic. It's just kind of done.
This you can keep running for the next 100 years with no problem.
I was doing some research on these, and I was trying to find the most absurd thing that these have ever been used for.
Yeah.
One of these went to Damascus, Syria. They put a 10-inch lift on it, and then they used it for hauling people from Damascus, Syria to Baghdad, Iraq. It was the public transportation. So the late 30s, this is how you would get back and forth. And I was like, well, why'd they put the lift kit on it? They said, oh, for crossing rivers. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and who wouldn't want to go a 120-degree day with the roof open, going 38 miles an hour on the road to Damascus?
It sounds terrible.
Oh man, what a nightmare.
Yeah, that would be rough. That would be rough.
But very cool.
So Yellowstone buses have a luggage storage area.
Show us that.
In the back. Yeah, definitely. We can go around in the back and check out these.
And this is so you can climb up on the roof?
That's correct. Yep, that's your step to get up on the roof. Look at the big, beautiful back end on this thing here.
I guess the bars are to keep luggage from banging and breaking the window, right?
Yeah, if you have some kids.
Not to keep prisoners in.
If you have a bad kid. You know, you just have, sometimes you have a kid, it's just a bad kid.
The bad seed,
It's just a bad kid. You just put that one in the back. Everyone else can ride in the front.
It's funny.
Here we go. So this is the luggage storage area. Most of your guests going to Yellowstone National Park were on multi-day trips, so it was really important that they could bring all their gear with them as they went from lodge to lodge to lodge.
Right, right.
When you get up to Glacier National Park, those were day trips. So their buses don't have the double doors in the back. They've got a little side door and it allowed an additional row of seating. So if you see one of these with no back doors, Glacier. If you see one with back doors, Yellowstone.
That's fascinating. They really knew what they wanted. I mean, they weren't just, we need a couple of buses.
You know, so in about my guess is right around 31, 32, the National Park Service, they're opening all of these parks, they're promoting all of these parks, and to be shoulder tapped to build a vehicle for one of these new parks, I think was probably a tremendous honor.
Now, were you allowed to drive your own vehicle then, or did you have to park and then take the bus into the...
I don't know exactly... I don't know if you could take your personal vehicle, but I think more it was a question of did you want to. So if you were in Chicago in 1930, driving your Model A all the way to Yellowstone, it'd be much nicer to take the train to Lander, Wyoming, transfer to a bus,
Right.
go see the park, and then
Right.
leave. And of course, this solved all kinds of problems with pollution, parking, all the stuff that they face today in the national
Right,
parks.
right.
That goes away when you use cool public transport.
Yeah.
So,
I guess.
and if you want to ride in one of these things today, the Montage Resort in Bozeman, Montana owns this one. They use it for weddings and tootling around town and stuff like that.
Right,
So
right.
their property is a good one. Glacier National Park still runs these things, and you'll see them around. But again, these double doors, that means it's Yellowstone, no matter what color it is.
Cool.
That's
Hey,
its...
well, let's shut this up and let's show people the inside.
Oh yeah, definitely. There we go. Okay. So going around.
Interesting. It doesn't lock, does it?
No.
So very people are more trusting.
Why do you put bars in the windows?
Yeah.
But no lock?
Yeah.
I don't exactly
I guess they figure
know.
it was never alone without people in it. Winslow, hop on the other side. Point out the dashboard to us here.
Yeah. So as you can see.
Egress is very good. Look how wide the door opens.
Oh, it's huge. And the whole space in here, this is not a bad place to spend a day, provided that the sun's not beating on you all day.
Right.
But nice, comfortable place from which to operate the vehicle. The truck is wide enough that you'll notice how far over the steering wheel is. You board the vehicle and then you got to kind of scoot yourself over. It's got this huge emergency brake right here.
That's like, you call that a railroad brake. Used to have that in the Duesenbergs. And that is on the transmission, not on the brakes, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
That is on the transmission. You give that a yank. And so.
And that'll burn up real fast.
Well, I first started driving this thing, and I was like, every time I'm getting in and out of it, I'm like, son of a gun, I got to work my leg around this emergency brake.
It goes up your trouser leg, the English would say. Yeah.
But you know what? Of all the cars, I've never driven this with the emergency brake on. I don't think you could, because
That's right, yeah.
I have to move it to start driving. So that was pretty clever. But we have the original white instrumentation here. That is all very straightforward, very simple. A few upgrades that we see in a lot of the national park buses is later model PA systems that were used to, on your left there's a grizzly bear, and all that kind of stuff. So ashtray.
Is that the original PA system? No, it's
not an original PA system.
That's the later one. It says realistic, so that's.
Yeah, that probably 70s or 80s. Still got an ashtray. I think that's very important that you can, smoke from all positions, right?
Smoking in a national park makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
I have a thing on the wall that was given to white trucks by the U.S. government for their service during World War I.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Great big glorious steering wheel.
That looks to be the original wheel, doesn't it?
Nice horn button here.
And you have an original. The registrations used to be on the steering column.
Yep.
Like that, but the trouble why they did away with that, people could look in the window, see where you lived, and come and steal your car.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that's why they kind of did away with that.
Well, some of the stuff on the dash is kind of primitive. Look at your defrost ducts here.
Yeah.
There's no way to hide those. And
But probably pretty effective if you had a good blower motor.
Oh yeah. For sure. This is not original. This is a Chevrolet blower motor over here. So that was upgraded at some point. And electric wipers have been installed.
Right.
Not the kind that's synchronized. So they.
What did it have? Vacuum before?
It would have had vacuum before.
Okay.
And I love that on the old cars when they get the mind of their own. They just
you go up a hill and the wiper stops.
You floor it. The wiper stops working.
Yeah.
Right. But the headlights get brighter, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the last bit is that your starter's back here. You hit the starter with the ball of your foot to get it running.
Well, that's pretty common back in the day. You had that massive starter where you couldn't just turn a key.
Well, and the transmission, this is what separates the boys from the men. This is an unsynchronized transmission. Not a big deal for a truck operator back in the day, but a lot of these were seasonal employees driving these things around. They weren't used to them, and so they were grinding gears all the time, and that's how the drivers got the name gear jammer.
And what do we have here? 5 across? 6 across?
4. Yeah,
just 4.
4 works just fine.
Okay.
And the top is really easy to take off and on. You can use these support bars to hold on when you're standing up and driving around. The windows all go up and down. The doors are only on the passenger side, just for safety. But all the way around, very functional, very easy to start, stop, get in and get out all day long.
Cool. Well, let's Let's take it for a run. Can we take it for?
I think that would be
Give it a shot.
Great fun, terrific fun. What a great way to spend a season. There she goes.
Well, we got some of our crew in the back. I figured there's really no place to sit down in the garage, so I might as well come on a trip. Wave, everybody. Hey.
It's beautiful.
Hey. You know, it actually drives very nicely.
Yeah, it's a 176-inch wheelbase.
Yeah.
And it just motors down the road, tracks nice and straight.
Well, you know, my Bentley's 156-inch wheelbase. The big Bentley sedan,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
really, yeah.
It's big.
But it motors along quite nicely.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I just keep getting impressed with is just how quiet it is.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it so conducive to sightseeing rather than having diesel engine or something like that.
Right.
Just the quiet little sewing machine is the way to go.
Well, it was a white.
Yeah,
They did make sewing machines.
that's true. Maybe that's where the term comes from.
That's where it does come from.
No.
Yeah, it does.
Oh my gosh.
You know, for as heavy it is, you'd think it'd be laborious to drive it, but it's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
And even though there's no power steering, I mean, it's tough from a dead stop, but underway, it's really not bad at all.
Yeah, and I don't know if you found this on your other cars, but it's really important to keep the front tires fully inflated.
Right, right.
That makes a huge difference in your power steering.
What do you run, about 50 pounds?
Yeah,
in the
about
front?
50 pounds, that's the trick.
Yeah, yeah.
Keeps you being able to turn the steering wheel.
Same thing in my fire engine, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like you want to check that every day.
Well, my fire engine's a V12,
Uh-huh.
and it's a 41, but
Yeah.
transmission, steering box feels very much like this.
Very similar, it's got to be. Yeah, and then, like I said, this says probably 650,000 miles on it.
This is what Ken Kesey should have had, you know? You know, I think he would have maybe been a more pleasant fellow.
Yeah, I can see that. I love the old white symbol here. Those are the wings of an albatross.
Right, oh yeah, yeah. And really, when you're on this ship, an albatross is what you want to see, isn't it?
I think so. It means
That's a real good luck sign, isn't it?
Doesn't it mean land's nearby or something?
No, it means bad luck.
Uh-oh.
Isn't that what an albatross means?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Samuel Coleridge or someone like that, a poet. Yes, of course. That's the
You know,
important
it's
part.
funny how the speed is relative.
Yeah.
Like 35 miles an hour in a modern car, you're pulling your hair out because you just feel like you're trudging along.
Right.
But in this thing, 30, it feels like
It's good.
55. You know, you feel like you're going nice speed. You can see things. And
There's no part of me that wants to go 65 miles an hour in this car.
right, right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, nope, I value my life.
I know.
And yeah, the whole thing's just about being mellow. What's the hurry? Have a look around. What a pleasant way to get around. I mean, just.
I mean, everything requires massive amount. You blow the horn, you see the amp meter go all the way over to like 60 amps.
Yeah. It's a serious horn. You know, it's when you start operating these things on a steep hill that it gets really tricky. Working the clutch and floating the gears and everything is a lot harder when you're pulling a grade.
You might want to check your timing.
Yeah.
I think your timing is off.
I thought the timing is off, or what do they call that? The accelerator pump on the carburetor. It doesn't feel like it's.
Well, there were no accelerator pumps and carburetors in these days.
There's got to be something giving it a initial tip in, maybe.
It feels like
Could be timing. This one you can't adjust the timing while you're
doesn't
driving.
have a manual advance.
No, it doesn't. I was just looking for that. I was like, you got a little choke.
Can't tell if choke gives me a little more. You're fine if you're gentle on the gas.
Does it sort of bog down?
It tends to bog a little bit.
Well, that's probably the timing. And also, we keep this thing at 7,000 feet.
Yeah.
And I last tuned it at 7,000
Oh,
feet.
okay, that'll
So
do
maybe
it.
she's lean.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But it can't be too lean because your temperature's pretty low.
That's true.
But it's nice. It's almost driving from the center.
Yeah, you're so far over.
I know. When you see those signs say 35 miles an hour, 20, these are the vehicles they were made for.
Right. 25 in the side streets.
Right,
It's
right.
like, yep, that's pretty much my speed. Yeah, I think the fastest this bus has ever gone was on the trailer down here.
Yeah, probably true. Did you even open the engine, or was it fine?
It was fine. And that was one of those things that was like...
Yeah, why? It ain't broke, don't fix it.
You've probably seen that before, yeah, but it's like, I don't think that I want to get in there. Everything seems like it's working great. So we cleaned out the carburetor, cleaned out the radiator, all new fresh fluids, fresh gas. But I mean, honestly, yeah, we threw a battery in and it was like, it just fired right up. And
it doesn't hurt to put a little Marvel mystery oil, or see, when this vehicle was built, gas was oily. When you get old gas on your hands, it's oily.
Yeah.
Modern gas, your hand turns white because it's alcohol. So if you put a little Marvel mystery oil or a little Lucas fuel stuff in the fuel,
just keeps everything a little happier.
Yeah, it keeps it lubricated.
Well, yeah, you don't have the lead anymore, so you don't want to burn out your valve guides. I wonder if this would run on kerosene. Probably 4 or 5 to 1.
If you put a quart of kerosene to a tank full of fuel, you wouldn't hurt it at all.
Yeah.
At least it'd keep it lubricated.
Yeah.
What's in the glove box?
Oh man, I like how it says door. I don't know who labeled the glove box door.
They just got all your paper.
But just all the regular stuff, nothing too exciting. You never know what you're going to find, though, in some of these old cars.
There must be tons of pictures of this thing back in the day.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, this is, the history of this bus is pretty well known. In fact, the history of most of these buses is pretty well known. There's some historians out there. There's an organization in Red Lodge, Montana, that they keep track of all these things, where they are, who's running them.
This is what they call road hugging weight.
Yes,
it's a smooth ride because it literally flattens any surface if you go over.
I'm not noticing the infamous LA potholes.
I know, well, they're there, we're hitting them, you just don't notice it.
Yeah.
Like 35 is straight up and down on the speedo.
Yep. That's the one. And the little throttle, like, it's got the little spoon throttle, but
yeah,
it's just pinned all the time. I mean, you just have it either idling or it's floored. Like, those are the only two options.
You realize how far away this window is.
Yeah, so your driver position
You're almost in the middle, yeah.
You're almost in the middle.
You could have a passenger on this side. If I sat right behind the wheel, I could have a passenger on this side.
Yeah. You could have a girlfriend on each side.
That's right. That goes real big. I don't know how that works out.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work very well. There are a bunch of people out there that are knowledgeable on these things that have done a really good job at keeping an eye on them, keeping them on the road.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to have that resource, because when I'm putting something together like a door panel or whatnot, and I say, how exactly do you want this done? And they can chime in, which is great.
Yeah, so you got a real flat spot about halfway down.
Yeah.
That might be carburation. It might just be sucking the float bowl dry. Mechanical fuel pump or electric fuel pump?
This now has, I think, an electric little thump pump on it. I assume the mechanical one stopped working sometime before I was its caretaker.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just got the little thump pump and a bypass on it. Yeah, and then some of these old trucks, you're going to have 2 transmissions.
Yeah.
Like the old Mac or something, you're going to have a primary and a secondary. So then you're working 2 transmissions trying to float all the gears. So there was plenty of things going on in these trucks in 1936 that would keep the operator busy. You didn't have time to look at your phone.
Exactly. Probably because they hadn't been invented yet.
Oh, that's, I mean,
that's beside the point.
Beside the point.
Well, Winslow, thanks for bringing us by. We always like your classic trucks, and thanks for saving these pieces of Americana.
Absolutely.
I think it's really important. It's such a great historical thing. It moves, it rolls, it still does. Capable of doing the job it always wanted to. And the modern buses, I don't imagine, doing much better. Certain nostalgia feel to this. So thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you, Jay. Thanks again.
That's legendary classic trucks, right?
Legacy classic trucks.
Legacy classic trucks.
Yeah, and if you want to see this particular bus, go up to Big Sky, Montana, to the Montage Resort in Big Sky, and you can get a ride in this very bus.
Oh, there you go. Well, very cool. See you next week.
Thank you.